Well, hello, my name is Dr. Mattison, and I am a professor of theology here at Catholic University, and I'm here today to offer some reflections about the text in your CUA primer by Pope Francis from his document, The Joy of the Gospel. Today's a great day to be talking about Pope Francis because you might have heard a few days ago he released the long-awaited encyclical on the environment that talks about human responsibility and caring for God's creation. So he's much in the news lately. But another reason why it's fun to talk about Pope Francis is because you'll be arriving on campus in late August, and just a few weeks later, Pope Francis will be arriving himself. He's actually going to say Mass right on the steps of the Basilica over here, and we'll have tens of thousands of people, including yourself, if you're interested, out here on the Great Lawn, listening as he presides over Mass and canonizes an American saint, Junipero Serra. So it's fun to talk about St. Francis at this time. So what to say about this brief text that you have in your primer from The Joy of the Gospel? Well, let me offer three thoughts on that. First, one of the most striking things is that Pope Francis says that joy is the clearest sign of the presence of God, the clearest sign of the gospel. And just what a wonderful claim that is. He spends some paragraphs going through the Old Testament and the New Testament and showing that wherever there's promises of God's presence among us, it's always marked by joy. And I'm sure you've experienced that already in different ways in your life, in the joy of a good friendship, the joy of a good book, or maybe during sports or in painting and nature. Obviously, the joy you might experience in moments of prayer or liturgy. Any of these moments where we experience true, rich, lasting joy are moments, the Pope assures us, where God is truly present. And that's just very good news and a beautiful thing. So the second thing to observe about this text is maybe in response to this question, why is it the case that the gospel is joyful? Well, in Christian faith, we believe that God is a God of love who created us out of love, who created everything out of love, and created all of us for a destiny of loving communion with God and with other people, and that God reveals himself and helps us along the way to participate in that destiny. So this story that the tenor of all reality is about God's love, and it's a destiny of loving communion with God and other people, is very good news indeed. The Pope reminds us that in that the myriad of ways that God draws us to himself in love, the culmination of that is becoming a human person in Jesus Christ. And so in the text you read, you'll notice he encourages us all to somehow experience a close personal relationship with Christ, whether it be through the church, through prayer, through the poor and our service to the needy, whether it be through our loving relationships. We're all called to a close personal relationship with Christ. And when we encounter Christ in those relationships, we encounter the joy of God's love for us. So that's the second thing. The third thing is the Pope, of course, recognizes that at times we don't always live out of this joy. We don't live in a manner that indicates we're aware of this good news of God's love for us. He uses this great phrase that he actually borrows from St. Augustine, that sometimes we humans are caught in a feverish pursuit of frivolous matters. We're too concerned with our status among our peers, or with money, or with pleasure, or our careers. And all those things, while not bad in themselves, are not what it's all about. They're not the most important things in life. But somehow, unfortunately, sometimes we live as if they are. And when you read your text, you'll find that the Pope assures us, despite our waywardness at many times in our life, we are always, always, always invited back to forgiveness with God. That God is a loving and merciful God who wants us to know and live out of that joy that's promised in the gospel. So even at times, all of us veer from that path and don't live with an adequate recognition of that joy of God's love for us and for other people. The Pope assures us that despite that, there's always a promise of forgiveness and always a welcoming back. And that's very good, joyful news indeed. So I hope you enjoy your reading of Pope Francis's text as much as I did when I revisited it. And it's also my fervent hope that when you come back here to Catholic U in late August, that somehow you taste that joy of which Pope Francis speaks in your classroom activities, in your extracurricular activities, maybe in liturgy on campus, or in your relationships with friends. So all the best, enjoy the rest of the summer, and we'll see you in August.